I don't know if you guys know this, but I am a solo creator, which means I don't have a producer or a small team that can help me track down clips, build stories, and do all that behind-the-scenes work that this job actually requires. And because the Trump administration is often moving at breakneck speeds, there are just so many things that I want to cover that I just do not have the time to actually cover. So what I'm going to try to do is during the week, I'm going to save some of these clips that I find interesting. And then at the end of each week, I want to put together kind of a weekly roundup of these things that I have missed. And these things won't necessarily be built around one particular topic or one particular theme. Instead, it'll be a whole bunch of a variety of clips that I can provide just like some preliminary commentary on. So without further ado, this week is actually going to be a whole bunch of different Democratic lawmakers that are actually speaking out against this Trump administration. And we'll go ahead and start with Khanna, where he's just talking about the sheer incompetence of this administration.
The first thing they do is they spook everyone by pausing Medicaid benefits. And then they just engage in these mass firings, a Valentine's Day massacre. You know, we had all these veterans on yesterday talking about their stories. They got notes on Valentine's Day that they were fired. No phone call, no notification, many of them top performers. So there's no rationale to it. It's not like they said, okay, we're going to spend 6 months to find out what positions are redundant or to identify people who may not be working well. They just engaged in mass firing, cut. And I had warned Musk about this, but this is how he chose to do things. He thinks it's like Twitter. It's not. It's the greatest institution of the United States and the United States government.
Yeah, and he's exactly right. What we are seeing with Doge is an absolute shit show. They are just going around agency to agency to agency, and they are just firing thousands upon thousands of federal workers. And what people don't realize is 30% of the federal workforce are veterans, because after they are done with the military, many of these folks are encouraged to work for the federal government because these people want to serve their country, because they believe in America and they want to make it a better place. But this Doge agency, this fake agency that Elon Musk is running, they are not being efficient at all. They're not going through with a fine-tooth comb trying to figure out who is not the top performers or whatever it may be. They're just going in and indiscriminately firing tons and tons of people. It makes absolutely no sense. And now we have veterans that are just getting their whole livelihoods wiped out because Elon is such a doofus. He has no rhyme or reason for what exactly they are doing. They are just operating under this, well, we need to downsize the government. And that's about it. It's absolutely incompetent. This is not the way we should be going about things. Because if you really think about it, this is like the least efficient thing that you could actually do. You're going in and firing a whole bunch of people. You don't know exactly what their job is. And now we don't have people in the federal government to do the job that the government actually needs to do. It's an absolute shit show. Let's go ahead and move on to Lieu talking about Donald Trump's 180 with Russia.
Message to the American people who are concerned about the UN resolution yesterday when, the United States voted with Belarus, Hungary, Syria, and not the other members of the G7. All six G7 nations other than the United States voted to condemn Russia for invading Ukraine. The United States didn't. Does that also give you pause?
That was a shameful day for America. We used to fight the axis of evil. Now Trump apparently wants to join the axis of evil.
Yeah. This is probably one of the most consequential things that Trump has done so far. He has completely reversed our foreign policy. He's basically shoving our allies aside and saying, what's up, Russia? What's up, boo? Because Donald Trump has an infatuation with these authoritarian leaders. Donald Trump wants to be a king. And now we are aligning ourselves with the evils in the world. Just think about how disgusting that actually is. And when the UN came together to vote on a resolution to condemn Russia's actions, for the first time, America sided with Russia instead of Ukraine. All of this after Donald Trump has just been parroting Russian talking points, claiming that Zelensky is a dictator, that they were the ones who actually started this war. It is disgusting. And not only is it just un-American, but this is going to make America less safe. Just mark my words on that, because when you're aligning yourselves with the fascists and the despots, there is no good that can come out of that besides Donald Trump and his billionaire buddies lining their own pockets. It is absolutely grotesque. Here is Chris Murphy talking about the destruction of our democracy.
The destruction of our democracy is part of this story, right? And we need to tell this to people. This is super unpopular, what they are doing. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants their healthcare to disappear, their hospital to close, so that Elon Musk can pocket a little bit more money. Nobody wants that. Nope. So how do you get away with it? You try to destroy our democracy. You try to crush dissent. You threaten members of Congress with arrest. You shut down TV and radio stations that dare to tell the truth. You endorse political violence. Right? So we need to make sure that we tell this full story. And the full story is pretty simple. It's the handover of our government to the billionaires, made possible by the destruction of democracy so that the people can't rise up and contest it. And none of that is going to happen if we have anything to do with it here in the United States Congress. All right?
Yeah, he is exactly right about this. What we are seeing in our country right now is so unpopular. We looked at polling this week of Donald Trump himself, but then we also looked at all of the things that his administration are doing, and they are completely unpopular. The American people do not like what they see, and it is time that a grassroots movement starts to form and we can start to come together to push back against this authoritarian takeover. We can all agree that we want an efficient government, something that runs smoothly, but I don't think any American, or maybe there are a few Americans that are just loyalists to Donald Trump that signed up for stuff like this, but I think if you ask your everyday American, your average family, they do not like what they see. They are not interested in an $880 billion cut to Medicaid so Elon Musk and the billionaire buddies can get a few more tax breaks. I don't think people are interested in food stamps being cut, in pensions being cut, and all of this other crazy stuff that they are trying to do just to favor the billionaire buddies. And so, as Chris Murphy said, they are trying to destroy our democracy so they can get away with it. If we have these strong institutions that can hold these people accountable, that doesn't work out for the billionaire class. That doesn't work out for the guy who fancies himself a king, Donald Trump. So destroying the democracy is part of the plan. Also, they can get just a little bit more wealthy. Just think about how grotesque that is. This administration is not looking out for your everyday American. He is not looking out for the little guy. Donald Trump is looking out for Donald Trump. And that is it. Here is Greg Casar talking about how Republicans are actually worried.
Because today something is happening in America. Americans are rising up to say we want a government by and for the people, not by and for the billionaires. You see it in protests and marches and at Republican town halls all across the country. I can promise you, even though when the press go and ask some of these Republicans whether they're worried about what they're seeing at their town halls, whether they're worried about those protests, they have to lie through their teeth when they say they're not worried, because we hear them in the hallway worried. They're worried because they know that they have a choice. They can either be representatives of their districts or they can act like Trump Musk employees. They have that choice. And they know that if they keep acting as Trump Musk employees, that the people in their district are going to demand a representative. And that puts them in a tight spot. And while the Republicans say they have a majority, they're not telling the full truth there. It's a very thin majority.
So I thought this was interesting because he is not the first Democratic lawmaker who has started to say that these Republicans are actually getting a little bit worried about the constituent response they are seeing in their very, very red districts. And so it's really interesting to point that out, that these people are actually worried behind the scenes, but also it just shows you how big of cowards they are. None of them have been willing to forcefully stand up against Donald Trump and this administration. Everybody so far has just snapped in line and is backing his every move because they are so afraid that Elon Musk is going to throw millions of dollars at a primary against them. But they're going to have to reconcile these two things at one point, because as we've seen in these town halls all across the country, the American people are not happy. Even when we're talking about plus 30 Republican districts, these people are pissed. And so these Congress members are either going to have to grow a spine and they're going to have to start pushing back against what this Trump administration is doing, or their constituents are going to rip them to shreds and possibly vote them out. So they're going to have to come to grips with what it is they exactly want to do, and we need to be here calling it out every step of the way and making sure that Democratic lawmakers are there to absorb some of these constituents that are very concerned about what they are currently seeing in this country. I'm just going to show you this one last clip of Jasmine Crockett, because this is what it's going to boil down to here within the next couple of weeks.
But the leader is absolutely correct. And I hate the headlines that keep saying the Democrats may shut the government down. This isn't up to the Democrats, right? We're not the ones that are going to shut the government down. The question is if we will do everything to keep the government open. But right now they have a Trump trifecta. So when and if the government shuts down, it is going to be on Trump and his minions. It is not going to be on us as Democrats, because we weren't elected to gut Social Security, to gut Medicaid and Medicare, to gut USAID, to gut any of these programs that they're going after. We didn't, that's not what we campaigned on. So that's not what we gonna do. We'll let them to do that by themselves.
This is such an important point to make, because as many of you know, they have to pass a continuing resolution here within the next week or so. And I have not heard many Democrats coming out and making the argument that this is going to be on Republicans. And that's exactly what the messaging needs to be. It is not Democrats' responsibility to come save the Republicans' ass right now. Donald Trump has come in within this month. He is breaking laws. He is shutting down agencies. He's stopping federal funding. Democrats are not in line with that. And therefore, they should not give an inch on voting for a continuing resolution. They should be willing to let this government shut down, and they should let everybody know that it will be on Republicans. And until they can get some concessions out of the Trump administration, we should not budge at all. But we have to hear Democrats out there spreading this message far and wide. I have not heard many of them going out there and saying that the government shutdown is coming and it's going to be on Republicans. We need to hear more of that. We'll probably cover that more next week, but it is crucial that people understand that it's the Republicans who have been claiming they have this huge mandate. They've got control of the White House, they got control of the Senate, and they've got control of the House. It is their responsibility to pass a budget or a continuing resolution. And if they do not, it is on them if this government shuts down. So we've got to make sure that we are spreading that message far and wide. So these were just a few clips that I found interesting throughout the week. Obviously, they were all Democratic lawmakers speaking out against this authoritarian takeover. Not only is it important to highlight these Democratic lawmakers who are speaking up, but in the coming weeks, as we do these weekly roundups, if I continue them, these will probably not be just featuring Democratic lawmakers. We'll cover a variety of different topics, a variety of different interesting clips throughout the week. It just happened so this week that all of the clips that I had saved were mostly of Democratic lawmakers speaking out against this authoritarian takeover. So if you guys like this idea of a weekly roundup, let me know in the comments. I'll probably give it a try for a couple weeks, see what you guys think, see if it makes sense to continue doing it. But until then, If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We've got to build something here on the left that can adequately push back against this right-wing media ecosystem that just shovels shit for Donald Trump every single day. So if you do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe. If you want to see how Donald Trump's polling is absolutely falling off a cliff right now, as he is the most unpopular president since presidential polling has been done, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.